The only difference between a hero and a villain is what they did with their experience. I'm going to say that again. The only difference between a hero and a villain is what they did with their experience. Well, hello, and welcome to our fearless forecast for 2025. My name is Amanda Kaufman, and you are joining me for my weekly live with the Coaches Plaza. If you want this full replay, make sure you come join us in Clients Over Chaos, which is my free community that is for coaches who are serious about getting clients, serving clients, impacting people through coaching clients. That's who it's for. And you can join us at next5clients.com. That's next number 5clients.com. So let's talk today about some of the things that have changed and evolved about the coaching industry in the last year. And as we're planning the latter half of the year, what should we be really paying attention to as coaches? Let me know, because I've got a really great presentation for you, because the coaches that are going to be in demand over the next year are different than the coaches that were in demand even 2 years ago, because we've had some really significant changes. So let's get into it. I'm just grabbing a couple of slides to guide us today. Okay, cool. And I think I figured out a way to share the slides here in the Clients Over Chaos community without it getting grainy. That's the idea. So let's see if I can do it. All right, there it is. Okay, so here's the thing. Trends are really important to pay attention to as a business owner. Not because, and when I say trends, I do not mean the shake your booty latest TikTok dance trend necessarily. Although, you could do you, boo. Like, if it's fun and it's brand aligned, go for it. But overall, hello, glad to see you here. Overall, I would say that most people are afraid. And they're afraid of a few things. They're afraid of, and I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. They're afraid of, what if my great idea doesn't stand up in the world? So if you have ever felt that, let me know. The second thing is, people are afraid that the process is going to be so hard. So whatever your vision is, that by the time you get the program done, and by the time you do the marketing, and by the time you have the sales call, it's literally like this crazy murky lens of like, it's all hard all the time. And the third thing people are afraid of is that if they roll up their sleeves and they courageously pursue things and they walk through that hard path and they deal with the trade-offs, that it's still not going to work, right? So trends are useful because if you can see what is working around you, it can give you some ideas about where you want to focus on your strategy, right? Like having some real strategy. Now, I was listening to a Harvard professor talking about, because, that's how I hang out on the weekends. I was listening to a Harvard professor on YouTube talking about the difference between strategy and process. And I couldn't agree more. I've said for years, strategy is the decision-making we make about the resources we have to get the best possible outcomes. Okay, so here's what the Harvard professor added, though, is that a lot of times we confuse strategy with planning. Has anybody ever gotten on that hamster wheel of doom with planning, and they're just like planning, endlessly planning, and they don't actually follow through on it? But even if you execute the plan, it doesn't necessarily mean you're strategically positioned. I am so guilty of this one. So what could that look like? It could look like going after a niche that doesn't actually exist. I call this the unicorn niche. By not paying attention to trends, I was also really fearful of doing anything on social media, and that just delayed my time to building proficiency, right? Because I was just scared. And so I was ignoring the trends of what people were doing online that were successful. The third mistake is looking at your peers and what they're doing and calling that a trend. You want to pay attention to what the winners are doing or trending towards doing. Like, I'm going to give you license today. I'm going to give you absolute permission to be a snooty patootie. Okay? Right? And I'm not like, you never have to tell your friends, you never have to tell your family that you're just getting all highbrow on them. But seriously, if you want to do successful things, you need to pay attention to how successful people do things very differently than unsuccessful people do it. When I finally took that one into my pretty little heart, and I realized that I wasn't being a jerk by being more scientific in my process, by actually using research and gathering data points and asking, like, what does all of that mean? That doesn't make me a jerk. That makes me what some people might call smart, right? So if you're smart, shout out, I'm smart in the chat, because you are smart and you do have license to look beyond your friends who are struggling just as hard as you are to seek ways to outperform them. Right. And there you go. So what are the data points? So who here saw the Hormozy launch this weekend? Who saw that? Right. It's like, if you're on the internet, it's hard to ignore, but also if you're an entrepreneur, really hard to ignore. Shout out Green if you at least knew that Alex Hormozy was doing a webinar this weekend. On that webinar, he sold the most books that have ever been sold in a 24-hour period. And here's what's really crazy. The way he sold those books was all about connecting to the desires of his audience, and it was building on the brand. There was so much genius in there. Like, I'm happy to do an unpack if this is actually interesting to you guys, but I know sometimes when we're starting out, we're just like, I just need to focus. I just need to focus. But ignoring trends like big movements is probably not going to get you ahead because you're just avoiding, right? Yeah. You saw the first launch? Cool. Yeah. First thing that you saw, right? So here's the thing. The data points are they in business for a long time? Right? I've been in business for over 8 years as a coach. And unfortunately, that's one thing that, like, you're only going to be able to claim after you actually did it. So, and I kicked myself because I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur for a solid 8 years before I actually did it. And then I did it. So I could be sitting here saying to you that I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years, but instead I have to say 8. Right? So best time to plant a seed is right now. Next best time was 20 years ago. Next best time is right now, right? The other kind of data point that you're looking for in trends is, do they seem to overall have a positive community and brand and sustainability around them? If you're learning from people who have no list, no community, no rhythm, no following, it's time for you to take a look at what you're watching, right? If all you're watching are the people that are moving as fast as possible, but not really deepening any kinds of relationships, I promise you they are not going to be here in 8 years. They're just not, right? It's people that build goodwill and sell well. It's both. So those are data points that I'm looking for in particular. I hope that answers the question right off the bat. Okay, I got some trends to share with you. And if you're in the Clients Over Chaos community, congratulations. You get to see the slides. If you're on Instagram, you can come join us in next5clients.com. That's next5clients.com to join us in the live feed for a VIP Clients Over Chaos community. Okay, so here are the coaching trends to watch. And, I say I've been in business as an entrepreneur for 8 years, but I've been in business for over 18, right? Because my career started as a business consultant. I've been living and breathing business and business strategy for 18 years, which is just kind of crazy to think about. But, there it is. There it is. So one of the first things that we learn as a consultant is to watch for trends and to spot what are the areas that if we develop this strength, we're going to be well positioned in the future, most likely, right? No one can tell the future, but there's indicators, right? That's what we're looking at here. So when I first joined the coaching space very specifically, and I dove way deep about 8 years ago, coaching was in a really different place. Okay. I think the first thing is that coaching overall is a relatively newer idea, relatively newer. And so when I first joined, it was a lot more about differentiating coaching from mental health. And so I think of coaching as being like proactive mental health, right? Versus, working with traumas, working with diagnoses on mental health. Coaching is really a forward focused, goal oriented, proactive action. So a lot of coaching when I first joined the industry was very, very much about like, oh, we're this, not that, right? And it was just building that distinction. The second thing is, like I said, moving beyond like everything being in a repair state and shifting to more of a future state. That's like a newer idea, a newer construct. So teaching these growth oriented methodologies and approaches was a really big focus. And the other thing that's happened, I would say, in the last 20 years, not just since I joined, but is more credentialing, right? So more certifications coming available and like legitimate good certifications coming online and available. Coaching programs being installed in universities more as a matter of course, as opposed to being like this weird new wave hippie thing, right? So there was a lot of really exciting stuff that was happening right when I first came on the scene as a coach. But the thing is that it's changed a lot. And the reason why it's changed a lot, one word for you, internet, right? How are we connected right now? So the internet's evolved so much, as you know. I mean, like social media went from here's a picture of my salad to like full blown personal brand building. And it did not start with the Hormozis. It started before that, although arguably the Hormozis are probably some of the biggest personal brands out there now, right? Because they really decoded how to magnify and amplify the free resources that are at all of our fingertips and to get better and better at it, right? So the idea, like I said, is that we're trying to position ourselves for success, kind of like the surfer, anticipating this wave that's coming towards us, right? And it's all about putting yourself in the way of more wins. Shout out win in the chat if you're like, okay, me taking time to think about the future is about positioning myself for a winning position with fewer setbacks. That's the whole goal, right? And so I'm just going to jump right into the trends, I guess. But what I was going to say is like coaching overall is now more mature in terms of there's methodologies out there, there's certifications out there. The qualification to coach, it's easier than ever. I mean, I scroll my feed and I sometimes see people say, become an ADHD coach for $49. So the coaching certification itself is rather commoditized, right? So commoditized meaning like there's a lot of options out there. You just need to go get one, right? And by the way, all roles go through that cycle. They eventually become fairly commoditized. So now the next place that we're at is really like getting legitimate clients. Because it's one thing to convince coaches to become a coach, a quote unquote coach, by getting them to do a certification program. It is quite another thing to build a legitimate business around the service of coaching, right? And if you want to hit me up for the really good certifications, one that I really like is a certified high performance coaching. And if you let me know about it, I'm an ambassador for that program, and I can save you about $2,000 if you apply through my link. So do let me know if you want that link, and you can let me know by saying CERT. Right? If you say CERT in the chat, then I'll know that I got to follow up with you with the recommended certification link. But there's lots of others. Like you can there are several really large certifying bodies and they all compete against each other. And again, it's getting pretty commoditized. The reason I like certified high performance coaching as a certification credential is because it's curriculum based. It is science backed. It has an incredible community attached to it. It is it's very entrepreneur friendly. So I like that. Okay, so short form depth. So here's the thing that is maybe different than when I very first started. When I very first started, you could walk into a networking group and say, I'm an XYZ kind of coach. Curiosity about what you did and who you were was like enough. It was enough to spark a conversation. It was enough to lead to a deeper conversation. It was enough to build something really true. In 2025, it's not enough because everybody says that, right? So drop a C in the chat if you're getting that there's like a commodity. Okay, so differentiating is important, but there's no point to really differentiating if you're not going to show up for gathering attention. So I would say data-driven attention mastery is super important. So what the hell does that mean? It means that you're not just making noise. It's that you are saying things that your audience, your community, your people who follow you give a toot about, right? Most coaches are so, and this is nobody in my community, but I'm just saying, like, as an industry, they are so insecure and they're so worried about what everybody thinks of them. And so they just get credential after credential after credential, hoping to one day prove themselves. And the really funny truth is that the answer has been in front of you this entire time. And the answer is say something and see how people respond to it. Show up as your full self. Be secure in knowing that you are who you are. And that's why it's really important to keep doing your work. But like tactically speaking, people are looking for insights they can gain in literally 15 seconds, right? So I said transformation in 60 seconds or less. Like actually, you've got to hook people in the first 3 seconds or even the first 2 seconds because they're evaluating whether they're going to spend time with you. All the rest of it doesn't matter if you're not catching that attention. So this attention economy is really important. And I've been kind of secret shopping a lot of coaching brands lately, even really established ones. And I'm like, that post was about you. That post was about you. That post was about you. That post was about you, coach. It was not about your audience, right? And the reason I know it's not about your audience is your audience is not hearting it. Your audience is not engaging with it. Your audience is not sharing it. Because if it was about them, if they felt like it was really about them, then they would interact with it. And this is something that I really wish I accepted into my heart a lot sooner. Kind of like I wish I started my coaching business 8 years before I did it. But again, when is the best time to plant an oak tree? 20 years ago. Second best time right now today. So, making a commitment to posting frequently is no longer enough. Like you need to post and monitor the performance of what you do to see whether it is in fact working. And for most coaches, they're posting not enough and they're posting all about themselves. And people feel that, right? Yeah, Deborah notices it too, right? Am I crazy or is this like true, So mastering the art of attention, right? And having real attention-seeking behavior that is aligned and ethical, but is also really effective. The other thing is your long-form content should be based on what people actually want to hear. So are you addressing genuine curiosities and real gaps that people have in their lives, or are you just talking, right? And this has been, again, a question I've had to ask myself, and I've gotten better and better at organic content over the last couple of years as I've realized that this is the trend. And I'm here to tell you that if you can be concise in answering a question, then you're going to do way better than if you're just telling this like big, long, hairy, dramatic story that is ultimately all about you, right? Now, if you want more details on how to do the data capture and everything, shout out Experts, because I have a program that teaches you exactly how to do that, because this is a 30-minute live and it's going to take more than 30 minutes to actually do that. So if you really do want help with setting up a data-driven marketing approach that's community centric and that lands in a group coaching program, then you need to say Experts so that you can book a call with me to talk about the Experts program. Okay, next up, trend number 2 is community-based conversion. So people often look behind me and they see that big, oh, you can't see it on the gram. Let me just show you. You see over there, that record over there? They're like, what's that big record? That is $1 million breakthrough. And what it was is I made $1 million through one Facebook group. So shout out 1M. It was the big difference maker of my career. Going from being a coach who was always looking for a client to being a coach who was leading a community and therefore building a pool or an audience or a pipeline or a community. I love the word community the most. Building a community of people who are interested in the same interest and they're all moving forward. And I've never had to worry about where my next client is going to come from ever. Can you guys see that? Right? Just like go, aha, if you're like, oh my gosh, I need to be a community leader because then I will always have warm people to talk to. You know, the number one thing I see, and again, I've been auditing a lot of businesses, whether they are new businesses and they're building a brand or they are an established business and they're trying to be more effective online. Apart from making the content all about you and not posting enough, the second big detractor that I'm seeing is that everybody's still hunting for a client. You know, Elmer Fudd from the Looney Tunes, and he was always looking for Bugs Bunny and he was always on the hunt and Bugs Bunny always outsmarted him. Y'all, your client is Bugs Bunny. You do not want to work with a dummy dumb. You don't want to work with somebody who is just easily tricked and easily fooled and easily caught, right? Like that is not the dynamic that you want to have as a coach who's getting real results with real people. You want to work with those smart bunnies, right? And so the way to you know, another metaphor that might fit better is, have you ever heard of herding cats? Right? The answer is not to chase cats. You don't chase the cat. You attract the cat. Right? Wabbit hunting. Exactly. Like, don't be Elmer Fudd, right? You want to be attractive. So this was huge for me too, because I was so insecure. I was like, why would anybody want to follow me? I have this problem and I have that problem and I have this problem. And like, not to get too personal about it, but it was like, I was totally concerned about my weight. I was totally concerned about my appearance. I was totally concerned about my gender. I was totally concerned about my age. I was totally like, y'all, it was nutty, right? And that's why in the Experts Network, I do high performance coaching, because high performance coaching was one of the things that helped me to claim my awesome, right? Good morning. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so trend number 2 is just like, stop trying to funnel everybody through a one-step linear path that never, that forces them to make a decision this second about whether they're going to hire you or not. And instead build like this community-based model. To show you how this has been working very practically in my business, we have the free Clients Over Chaos community, right? So the most outermost layer of my community is like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, like all the places. That's my social media. The next layer would probably be my email list. And it's like this thin layer that's kind of, you know, the next one. The next, like the inner circle, the first place where you get something that other people really have a hard time getting is the Clients Over Chaos community, where every day I'm dropping a daily spark, which is a motivational audio that's like 5 minutes or less to keep you focused on building your coaching business and to working through the common obstacles of doing so. There's also a course in there that's very snappy, very consumable, and also super helpful to get you out of that feeling of having chaos regularly. Like we literally do it every day. The next layer is the First 5 Club. So the First 5 Club is my first paid community, but it's not a lot. It's like $57 a month. If you want to join us this month, I'm opening the doors just for this month before I close it down. So just shout out First 5 if you want into that. But it's the only community on the internet that is focused on coaches getting their first 5 clients. Right? Everybody else is selling you this crazy funnel system that requires technical skills you have to build up to, that is scaling bad ideas. That's the biggest reason why people don't succeed is they're scaling a bad idea. They're scaling an unproven idea. They're scaling an idea that is confusing and hard to understand. And by the way, established business owners do this. This is not just newbies that fall into this trap. It's like literally the biggest problem in marketing. Did you know that only 15% of marketing campaigns actually pay off, right? 85% of them fail, right? Most people's marketing absolutely sucks. And the reason why it sucks is because it doesn't solve the problem that the person has. And also it forces a trusted decision to happen as fast as possible. And that's just not real, right? Like, can you imagine if you went into a brick and mortar store and somebody walked up to you and was like, hey, are you going to buy something today? And then you were like, no, I was just browsing. And they're like, get the hell out. You're not allowed in here. There's no way for you to spend time in here. You can only come into my store if you buy something like this second. And you're like, whoa, dude, just met. I don't know yet. I still got to hear more from you, right? And by the way, P.S., Alex Hormozy said this exact same thing over his marathon of a webinar weekend. He said, the main reason why people aren't making the decision to buy is because they still need more information. So when you do a community-based business and a community-based model, it gives people who need more information to make a decision the chance to get it. And by the way, 40 to 60% of the people that come into your community are never going to buy from you. But it's not because you're not awesome as a human. It's just that, do you buy from 100% of the businesses that you walk into, right? Because we have these really weird expectations of behavior and we're just unwilling to do the work to overcome that. And I made a decision a couple of years ago. I'm like, no, screw it. I'm going to be community based. I'm not going to be this guru that hides in a tower. I'm going to be down on the ground with you, which is why I do every single week free training that I would pay for. And I would pay a lot for just for the free community. And then in the $57 community, we do group coaching that is next level. We've got curriculum in there to help you get your first 5 clients, to help you narrow in on your niche, your problem that you're going to solve for that niche, all of that. And it's $57 a month. It's a steal. But then there's another layer, right? There's another layer, another level, and that's the Experts Network. So in the Experts Network, it's all about systematizing your community. It's about systemizing your attraction. It's about systemizing your programs. It's really about the systems and the longevity of building your coaching business. And guess what? There's another layer, right? If you join the Experts Network and you want a private coach, there's an option for that, right? I'm telling you what, successful coaching businesses moving into 2026, they're like onions. There's going to be layers, right? Oh my gosh, Sparsh, what's up, dude? I love it. Okay, what about AI agents? This is such a good question. You can use AI agents to help you in facilitating the community, but here's where everybody's doing it wrong, right? Is they're using AI before they've proven the problem. If there was a thing that is different about the Coaches Plaza community, it's that we are logical, we're data-driven, led, impact-seeking people. That's who we are. So if you're using an automated tool of some kind, I've been using automation and AI agents since 2021. I started to test those, right? And y'all, it was when it was really expensive. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on systems to analyze sales calls, tens of thousands of dollars on systems to do. Back when I had a sales team, I was using the AI to spark conversations over text to get things booked. And I want to say that program was $15,000. And now what's happened? Technology has advanced so quickly. You can get going with AI agents for a few $100s. But here's what's happening. People are still programming the robots to be noisy and ignorable. And what do you think is going to happen when there's so much noise and there's no community, there's no benefit to it? It's not. So here's how to do it right. AI done right. Sparsh, by the way, if you want to come join Clients Over Chaos, I've got the slide. I'm actually talking about trend number 3, which is AI augmented coaching, right? We're not competing with AI. We're not even necessarily becoming an AI coach. It's that we're using AI tools to reinforce some of the things that I just said, which is community, community, community. If you can be a faster and better service to your community because you're using AI, that is a game changer. And that's where I see the coaching industry really going. It's not about coaching versus mental health. It's not about coaching versus courses. It's more about I, the coach creator, And I am creating experiences that serve my community in a really powerful way. Some of those experiences are monetized, they're gated, right? So that you're only serving the people who are super serious. And of course, if you don't make the money, you can't sustain the mission, right? But where so many people are already losing so much money is that they're spending it on these subscriptions and these AI bots, but they don't have a community. And they don't have a community because they haven't figured out what is it that a lot of real human being people want to talk about and spend their time on. You see how this is all connecting the dots, right? It's so crazy. Yes, it's layers. It's mission. It's connecting the dang dots, right? So use the tool to speed you up. Don't use the tool to be a replacement for the core work, right? Okay, which brings me to trend number 4. I was going to do 3 trends, but I hope you don't mind. I got one more for you. It's a bonus. Results-driven marketing, right? So it's about the before and after. So when you work with me, your before is that you've got a credential, you have experience, you know you can help people, maybe even you've helped a few people. But after you're done working with me, you're going to have a lot of clarity about who you help from now on. You have a lot of clarity about your systems. You have a lot of clarity about how you spend your time, so you have choice. And so you are focused, right? So that results in positioning you the best for more clients, for more revenue, for more profit, right? But it's a very clear before and after, right? Most coaches really struggle with like, I don't want to promise outcomes. You don't. And I didn't. I didn't say you're going to get a client. I said, I'm going to walk you through the systems, the frameworks, and the thinking, and give you the support and the feedback and mentorship to better position you for that. You got to do the work, right? Like if there's one thing that I was like, dang, I wish most coaches really knew, it's that it's about positioning for the win. Right? You're not Kobe Bryant. You're not, Michael Jordan or any other prominent sports person. That's your client, right? So like you are the all-star sports person. I'm the coach on the sideline saying like, hey, here's techniques that are going to help you activate your performance. That's all a coach ever is. Right? We're just activators of performance. We're really a social construct that is leading people to that success. And that's one other reason, by the way, that I think you should have a community, because if you have a community of people, then it's like you're literally building a team for your pro athletes, right? So a couple of things. Gathering data on transformation. I know that when people go through the systems in the experts network, they will often get thousands, if not hundreds, of email addresses. And I know this because I put in systems that I could monitor this, right? Would your business change if you had thousands of people that you could be sending messages to every day or every week and building that community with them? Not everybody's going to opt in, for sure, of course. But do you think you'd be more successful if you had thousands of opportunities? Let me know in the chat, because that's what our transformation is all about. Building case studies that have these measurable before and after results. Super important, because if you don't do this, then no one's going to believe you. And, one thing I heard this weekend at the webinar that I was like, dang, that's so good, is that proof outweighs promises. Proof outweighs promises. Here's the thing, broken promises with proof of failure are going to kill brands faster than ever. Why? Because word travels fast on the internet, right? Word travels fast. So if you do a bad job and you don't care and you're not involved with people, then that's going to get around, and it's going to get around really, really fast. And it's always been that way, but it's going to get even more that way, right? So you building proof is super, super important, right? So if you're just starting, then you need to look at the proof you already have from adjacent experiences, right? So that's what I would say for the vast majority of my clients is like, you have proof. What the hell are you talking about? You've either got proof in the sense that you've done it for yourself, or you've got proof because you've done it in slightly different environments. So just be honest about where your experience is coming from. And if you can be honest about where your experience is coming from, then, people are going to choose you. So I would say never start from scratch. Always just look at the legitimate proof, and you might be the proof to begin with, or it might be an adjacent experience. So like, yeah, definitely. That's such a good question. Love that question. Love my clients over chaos. Okay, so here we go. Trend number 5 is the rise of the micro niche. So I got a picture of this pretty big fish here in a smaller pond. And what I'm seeing is that there is this hypothesis about social media that it's moving from being social media to interest media. Now, I would argue that it's always been interest media. It's just that people's interests are changing and getting more specific and better informed. So, what does that mean? It means that you not claiming your specialty and you not claiming who you love to work with is like one of the biggest things that's going to detract from your success. And again, this is from auditing a lot of businesses over the past year. They're scared. They're scared that they pick the wrong audience. They're scared that they pick the wrong specialty. They are scared that they're not going to be able to grow. And because of that, they stay still, right? Fight, fret. Oh God, I can't say it. Fight, flight, or freeze, or flock. Right? So they tend to like flock to people that reinforce their opinion. They tend to freeze and not want to do the work or to think through the work to a logical conclusion. Or like, what's the other one? Fight. They tend to fight logic, right? So they're like, no, like I've got to find evidence that says that I need to stay exactly where I am. Some people might call this sabotage, right? So it was a fight, flight, fly. Yeah, just like ignore, like run away from their problems and not take them head on. And so what I really mean by a micro niche is it the interests are more specific or algorithms are more specific? I love this question, Lynn. That was such a good question. So here's the thing. The algorithm is a reflection of our mass consciousness. How about that on a Monday? Is that too heavy for a Monday? So what I'm saying is like the algorithm, its whole job is to keep our attention. And so whatever you're seeing perform in the algorithm, it's a reflection of the attention that everyone using the platform is putting into the platform. And it's operating based on not just whether you click or whether you comment or whether you share, but also how long you hover over something, whether you tap on the picture, how many seconds you watch of the video. And like it has all of that data. And then it also has the data about the content itself, like what were the images that were included and like what was in the image, what was in the copy, what were the words that were in the post, and like what was all of it. So the algorithm is really just reflecting the human behavior. You can't hack the algorithm, but you don't have to, because if you understand that it's simply reflective of the collective consciousness of everyone using that algorithm, then you can be like, well, now I can start being data driven and I can actually start make predictions about what is going to likely perform. The rise of the micro niche is really about like, what are the interests that are interesting to your audience? And a hint I'm going to give you is that it's probably not unobvious. Did I say that right? Not unobvious. It's probably really obvious, like slap you in the face, silly simple, what people are actually into, right? So as I've built my coaching business, I'm going to let you know, people want more clients. Period. So if I ever talk about people getting more clients or a new way to get clients, that's always going to perform better than something like coaches being insecure about what questions they're asking. There's a small percentage that are going to be insecure about the questions that they're asking in a coaching session, but mostly people are worried about whether they can make money at this. And so, this is where when you get to really understand this stuff, it's important to choose the light side of the force and not the dark side. Recently in a coaching call, I actually showed coaches how to look up the FTC guidelines so that you just understand what is and isn't allowed to be promised. And so the long and short of it is you cannot promise that the future is going to be different for sure. Like that's something that you can, as a rough guideline that I kind of go by. You can promise that it's like, I will do this service for you. I will give you this process. I will give you access to this content. I will give you my book. I will give you this template. I will give you this script. I will give you these prompts. And that's why most marketers do that, is because they can say that, right? Because that's a promise they can honor and keep. What they can't promise is like that your future is going to be different. Why? Because your future is going to be dependent on, like, are you going to follow the process is like certainly part of it. But also, I can't know what other factors you haven't told me about, right? So a lot of businesses, this is actually is this interesting, you guys? Or is this like too nerdy on a Monday? Let me know in the chat, because I'm happy to go off a little bit. Okay. So a lot of people think that you're going to be more successful building a business coaching business than any other kind of coaching. I would say that that's a yes and that's a no, right? It's a yes in the sense that everybody wants more money. Like, humans by their nature are greedy. And like, that's no judgment. It's just like, it just is, right? But that being said, because it's a really easy thing to observe, there's a lot of competition. And there's a lot of people who go, oh, that's the same easy interest. I'm going to target that same easy interest. And so then what ends up happening, the supply of options goes way up for your audience. And so then the demand can go way down. So it's actually, in some ways, harder, right? Not as hard as picking an interest that nobody has. We're going to do tapestries with belly button lint. Whoa. Okay. Like, that is a very specific targeted interest, but how many people are actually going to be all that into that particular art form? I've seen in my own business that, like, coaches that are just focused on leadership coaching, and it's like, it's leadership coaching. Leadership is the interest. Being successful in a career, that's the interest. They might even say STEM career. That's another interest, because it's like more specific. They are very successful. I've also had spiritual coaches that have been very specific in the spirituality that they are talking about and the methodology that they are going through, and they've also been really successful. I've also had clients who are really successful with relationship coaching. So, like, I don't think that you picking a mega niche is going to make a huge difference as compared to the micro niche, which is that you are solving a very particular challenge for a particular subset of the internet universe, right? Cool. So let's make this actionable. The first thing is to just take a look and audit yourself. So evaluate, like, your current positioning. Like, would you trust you? Would you buy from you? Would you want to be following you? And if the answer is no, that's okay, because that's exactly where I started too, right? And I think that's where everybody starts. But get more specific. What is it that you think might be missing? And start building kind of that hit list of things that you can start specifically focusing on. Once you've got that list, I sat down with a private client last week. No kidding. We came up with like 40 things. Okay, it was like 37 things that she had identified was wrong or missing from her brand or her business. And I would say she was off by a factor of 1,000, right? Because there's probably 47,000 things that should be or could be different. The real secret is in prioritization. If you're just like, oh, what? And the reason why is, like I said at the beginning, strategy is the decision-making we make about the resources we have to get the best possible outcome. AKA, what are you prioritizing? What's the most important thing to prioritize, and look for things. I love this method, the ICE method. Look for things that have the greatest impact, that you have a high confidence is going to work, and they're easy to do. Just take care of those things. Like, start taking care of the easy stuff, so then you can start taking care of the hard stuff once the basics are handled, right? Prioritization is fun. It lets me get, progress, and yay. And then the last thing is, look, the very fact that you have an inclination towards a coaching business means that you have a message. You have something on your heart that's important for people to hear. And so start taking that really seriously. And I don't mean you have to be like stoic and all frowny face and it's like, this is serious, listen to me, right? That's probably not going to work too good. But if you are like, well, my message doesn't matter, you've opted out before we've even started. So it does matter. It does matter. There's meaning in your message. There's meaning in your experience. There's meaning in how you process it. And I'm going to leave you with this idea. The only difference between a hero and a villain is what they did with their experience. I'm going to say that again. The only difference between a hero and a villain is what they did with their experience. The hero took their traumatic experience, their difficulty, their challenge, and they used it to call themselves up. And that they really owned their story from then on. The villain took that same trauma, took that same experience, and used it to hurt and harm themselves and other people. So who are you going to be this week? You're going to be a hero, right? Yes, it matters what I do, right? It's time to amplify your impact. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you pop over to score.thecoachesplaza.com, or if you are on Instagram, you can head over to my link in bio and grab the messaging clarity quiz. Yes, you're going to be the hero. Awesome. That's exactly what I want to hear on a Monday. You're firing me up, you guys. Okay, so go to score.thecoachesplaza.com for my free 2 to 3 minute quiz, and it's just going to help you prioritize on your messaging, right? Most coaches, your biggest bottleneck is just that you aren't talking about what you do really effectively yet. That's it, right? Can you learn to communicate? You learned how to coach. Of course you can learn how to communicate. Because coaching is essentially a communication skill. It's just you need more and different communication skills. That's all I'm saying. So take the quiz. It's totally free. At the end, pro tip, scroll to the bottom. I did a whole guide on how to build your messaging to win in 2025. It is brand new. It's beautiful. And you know what's really cool? It's a Google Doc that you copy into your own drive. So you can actually, there's questions in there that you can respond to. You know, you can copy and paste it into ChatGPT and have a heyday with it. I don't care. I just want you to prioritize your messaging. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing, if you're not already in our Clients Over Chaos community, again, Instagram, just pop over to our link in bio. We've got the link in there. Or you can go to next5clients.com. Come join us and share what you loved about today's session in the community, in the discussion. Just start a new post, start the conversation. Tell us about what was your top takeaway? What are you going to action upon? What is next for you as a coach? Share that, and you're going to find that there's a supportive group of people around you who are ready to cheer you on and see you be successful in the next year. Last big thing. If you are tired of feeling tired in your business, you are tired of feeling like it's all over the place, it's overwhelming, and you're never going to get the traction, and you're tired of spending $5,000 and $6,000 on programs that are not going to help you activate, that you are one of hundreds in the room, and you're over it, then go to coffee.thecoachesplaza.com. If you've already had a coffee with me, and then just remember, folks, this is how I promote my business. So if you've already had a coffee with me, this is not a way to get a cheap coaching session, but I do at least one coffee with people that are really ready to activate and move forward. And all I ask in return is that you buy me a coffee and we meet over Zoom. That's it, right? And it's 20 minutes and it's free and clear. I don't have anything to sell you in that call. But if you are just tired of spinning your wheels and you want to talk to a real human, you don't want to talk to AI bots, you don't want to have to wait your turn in a huge Zoom meeting or something like that, and you're ready to start upgrading your time that you spend in your coaching business to get better results, more scalable results, definitely hit me up for a coffee. And again, if you're on the gram, you can go to my link in bio and you will find Coffee with Kaufman available there. And I'd be so happy. It'd be my honor to help you for 20 minutes. And if I can help you further, then I will let you know that. If I cannot help you further, then hey, it's going to be 20 minutes, very, very well spent. And if you don't think so, I will refund the coffee. Okay. All right. You know what? So I moved from so I just got this question, and it was, is it Tim Hortons coffee? It would be if I was still in Canada. But however, I am now an American and I live in Texas. So Starbucks it is. So my favorite coffee is a sweet cream vanilla cold brew. And I went to the Starbucks site and I went to the app actually, and I figured out exactly how much it costs to give me a coffee. And that's exactly the price for the 20-minute call. So that's my coffee method. So I am super excited to spend some time. I've got maybe 2 or 3 spots available this week. So make sure if that like speaks to you and you're like, I think this could actually really help me, grab one of those spots. They are legitimately scarce. And I am looking forward to seeing you in a coffee with Kaufman this week. And for the rest of y'all, I'll see you in the community. I'll see you in the Clients Over Chaos group. And I'll see you in the First Five Club and the Experts Network. We'll see you soon.